Welcome to the Epik Mellon podcast, conversations with the real humans behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. Brought to you by QA Cafe. In this episode, we talk to Joakim Bennerholt of IOPSYS about the evolution of home gateways, what we all want as broadband users, and how the open source world is changing things for the better. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome once again to the Epik Mellon podcast. I am your host, Jason Walls from QA Cafe, and joining me here today is Joakim Bennerholt, coming all the way from Stockholm, who is the CEO of IOPSYS, and we've been working together with IOPSYS for quite a while now, and I'll let him get into everything that you guys do over there. But it's going to be really exciting. I'm excited about the kinds of stuff we're going to talk about because you're going to see many themes that probably come up very often this year when it comes to the future of home gateways and that sort of stuff. But like always, I want to dive into sort of how we got into this weird world and why it is that we even stay here. Before I begin, my general disclaimer, obviously, this is the Epik Mellon podcast, which is run by me, Jason, who works for QA Cafe. But all of the opinions expressed on this show are my opinions and not those of QA Cafe or its leadership. And I assume the same is for you, even though you're the CEO.
I think small correction, Jason. My title is actually these days COO. So I run head up operations. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We had a small shift of sort of the leadership structure.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you have more fun doing that.
I have a lot more fun doing that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as always, Epik Mellon is brought to you by QA Cafe, and it's entirely funded by my employers. So we have three great products that we offer for the industry. The first is CD Router, which is the industry standard test solution for broadband gateways, Wi-Fi routers, and other customer premises equipment. CD Router contains thousands of fully automated test cases designed by network experts, covering feature validation, stability, certification, and performance all in one. Moreover, QA Cafe's world-class support team acts as an extension of your own, helping you understand the technologies and build better products overall. Secondly, CloudShark is the way to make network packet captures an easy and useful part of your cybersecurity workflows. CloudShark helps you work through tough issues together without passing around large trace files, losing data, or risking security leaks of valuable information, and helps entry-level analysts learn from your senior experts, curate best practices, and standardize operating procedures around packet captures. And lastly, QA Cafe's Passport is a fully automated solution for testing the connectivity and interoperability of IoT and smart home devices. Testing with Passport is as simple as connecting your device, selecting tests, and getting clear pass-fail results with full leg data and packet captures to find and resolve bugs before they end up as a bad review of your product somewhere. To find out more about CD Router, CloudShark, and Passport, visit www.qacafe.com. All right. So
that was
welcome.
Excellent. I can just dream of sort of what the effect having a guy like you selling our stuff, presenting it that way would have an immediate effect on sales, I'm sure.
It's the base. It's the base voice.
Yeah. You had also good flow.
I appreciate that.
If I weren't already a customer, I would be quite psyched about checking out your stuff.
Right. No. Someday when I don't have actual customers on, we'll see if that actually happens.
Yeah. Should try that.
All right. So Joakim, tell me, we've talked about the format of the show and, trying to talk to people about how it is that we got in the industry and why and how bizarre it is.
Yeah.
But also a little about what we do.
And why we are still here.
And especially why we're still here. It keeps pulling you back in no matter what you do.
Yeah.
But tell us, talk a little bit about IOPSYS and it is very, very relevant to the things that I do. On the CD router side of things and in the broadband forum side of things and, the world of broadband CPE. So.
All right. So I would try to keep it sort of short and crisp. So I've been in this industry now for 24 years. So I've sort of grown up in this industry, and interestingly enough, I still report 24 years later to the same person who recruited me. So 1999, I was recruited to a company called Inteno by Conny Franzén.
Yeah.
So we've been on sort of him and I've been on an interesting journey now for 24 years.
Right.
So I was recruited into a company who was at that time a technical distributor. So we were already at that time selling stuff towards service providers, operators, ODMs, OEMs. But it was, you could say, around 2002, we started developing our own CPE products.
Right.
So that's sort of, you could say, the start of the journey that has led up to what is, me now being part of IOPSYS Software Solutions.
Right. So
So we
CPE
start,
products,
yeah,
like at that time, like we're talking like the full integration, right? All the way down to hardware and everything.
exactly. So we were at that, when we started, we started doing sort of, ADSL, simple ADSL CPs. We only had, we were focusing sort of in the Nordic markets. And we worked closely with one primary ODM who at that time did all of the software and hardware design for us. So gradually over time, we took on more and more of sort of uh, the hardware design, the software design. So 2010, we had been through, I think, 4 or 5 sort of hardware generations, going
Mhm.
from different chipsets, having to restart development every time, having very hard time reusing software components.
Right. Right.
So much smarter people than myself um, have started noticing something called OpenWRT, which just sort of started becoming something that was being used around that time. So I was blissfully unaware it was everything, open source related. And
And it was a
uh,
very, very different landscape for that stuff back then
it,
too.
yeah, it was for sure. Some would say, people who know me and work with me would say that I'm still blissfully unaware, but a number of things. But we kicked off a small POC. We got some funding from Swedish government to sort of start this, open source embedded Linux software development.
Right.
And we started 2010. We got the first commercial product running what is now IOWT out in 2013. And we sort of, it has like grown from there. And then uh, across the years, sort of we attracted some interest from the industry. Sort of Android had a time, you had the iPhone coming out, you had Android becoming gradually very, very popular. So the,
Right.
the sort of idea of open source, being able to reuse software, having sort of hardware, software separation, that idea started getting, a hold and creating interest in the industry. So we had this idea for several years, sort of to break out IOPSYS and the IWT software SDK product in a standalone company.
Right.
And that
Right.
happened 5 years ago. So we're now five and a half
Right.
years into
Which is crazy because
the
that
story.
seems like a short that was a short time ago. Like, let's be honest, that was a short time ago
Yeah,
where this concept started being readily adopted by people as something that they would even entertain, right?
yeah.
And it has progressed so rapidly since then.
Well, well, so I am typically not, the most patient of persons. So I tend to think that things are moving very slowly, or could move faster.
Oh, I feel
Uh,
you.
so
That's
I would say, this industry, right? It really is a love and hate relationship, at least for me.
Mhm.
There are so many things that I genuinely love and, I'm passionate about, and a lot of great people. But it's also looking at sort of the stuff that we do, and look at gateways, routers, in home equipment. It is still a landscape that looks a lot like, the mobile phone market.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
Nokia, and, everybody built their own stuff. You had your
Yeah.
own development in the basement, and very
Oh
little
yeah.
sort of
And
reusability across,
one thing that's
across
very
that.
crazy to me, at least in the US, right? So, and it's just as a funny anecdote, it's like my Google News alerts are all around Wi-Fi routers and stuff like that, right? So
Yeah,
the fact that the retail industry for those products is still as strong as it is knowing what I know about the direction of things and what operators are doing is still actually very surprising to me, right?
yeah,
Because I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. But meanwhile, the retail gateway market is still, you know, dominating the consumer electronics media, and also like trying to design themselves to look cool enough that people will pick it up in a store,
yeah,
like the aesthetics of your router.
yeah. But there's so many things that are so hard to understand, for people working so like intimately from the inside. As you say, the whole retail, you have, so I have kids, and like most teenagers kids, and, some adults as well, love gaming, right? And just, I, you see it all the time, right? You have kids nagging on the parents, go out and buy the most expensive, super
Yeah.
duper Wi-Fi router that is advertised as being sort of a gaming enhanced thing. It has antenna sticking everywhere, and it costs a fortune, right?
Right. You don't need just the best PC anymore. You also need the best network setup.
Yeah, and I find that extremely frustrating. Sort of that, we know that's a space that should be captured in a much better way by the service providers.
Hmm.
They should be able to, for their consumers, make sure that you actually get the quality controlled, guaranteed low latency user
Right.
experience. Because you
Right. Right.
cannot sort of, yeah, it's part of the
And
package.
the story we keep telling, in the the last few years at least, the story we keep telling is that like, you know, the reason why operators, because spoiler alert for the rest of this episode, we're going to talk about value added services for operators, right?
Yeah,
So before we go really in depth about what that
should be
means,
part of the
like,
disclaimer early on. If you're allergic to,
don't be operating machinery while you go through. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, so like especially when it comes to the network, and I always talk about this. It's great because I was thinking about this while you were talking about OpenWRT when it first came out. It's like all of those open source platforms for routers. That was like the nerdy DIY space of people who had the knowledge and wherewithal to install such a thing on their own. They were doing their own thing. It's the
yeah,
0.01% of the population who has broadband services, right?
yeah,
The vast, vast, vast majority of everyone out there equates their Wi-Fi, their router, and everything in between is all the responsibility of the operator, even if they're the ones who bought their own router, right? Like their connectivity sucks. It is because of the operator. That's what they think. That's what everybody believes. So the reason why
yeah,
value-added services are so important is because if the operator is going to get blamed for this anyway, they might as well take ownership of it and start to sort of be like,
exactly,
okay, yeah.
exactly. And they really, it's such, this is of course a huge topic, but the, in that you also have to make it very user friendly, right? I heard some statistics. I think it's from one of the big Nordic operators, that less than 10% logs in to the web UI. So it's fewer. So a large Nordic
Oh
operator
yeah.
have
I hope it's less
more
than
than
that.
10% that it has ever logged into the web UI.
There's no reason for it whatsoever.
But plus 90% don't even change their Wi-Fi, SID and Wi-Fi password.
Right. Right.
that to me is crazy. And I think that you have to sort of, it's like a reality check, because uh, I don't know about you, but for me, surely sort of I lose track on like regular users, because I'm surrounded by like brilliant engineers and things, and we think about, how can we,
Yeah,
how can we
right.
do
And it's funny because
great
I have to
cool
constantly
stuff.
tell people in standards, like we're all sitting around making, TR369 or USP, and
Yeah,
people are, saying stuff from their perspective as a user. And I'm like, you guys are not the use case.
no, no, but it's really important sort of to not lose track of the end user and sort of the user experience. And that's basically, so of course we're a company, right? So we have to pay salaries and pay for rent and sort of generate some return for our owners. But I think most companies, if not all, you need part of your mission and vision to be bigger than just sort of quarterly profit and bottom lines.
Yeah.
And I think for us, that sort of uh, the mission vision part is working with open source and all that stuff, whatever, when we're all retired and gone, sort of to leave something after, right? To
Right.
help contribute and propel the industry forward. But
And
at
in
the end of
reality,
the
if you
day,
are
yeah,
committed to those things, then the profitability will come to you, right?
hopefully that's, I'm sure our owners would hope so, at least. But sort of the end, or the end game, or sort of what is every day's end game, is we have to, enable service providers to provide better user experiences. And it
Mhm.
should be simple to use. And you should be able to, personalize, that's a difficult word, personalize it to your own family specific, wants and needs. And, how is, my digital life is different from my neighbors, right?
Which wasn't always the case, right? It's like, and as we've gone through this evolution, back in 2002, the
Yeah.
broadband experience was probably mostly the same for people,
Yeah.
right? And now, obviously now, especially after the pandemic, it's very not the same.
No, absolutely. And there's so much stuff. I get now. I get worked up again about, take like the big, well-known service providers. They have such high confidence from their customer that they could basically launch banking services. They have that kind of level of confidence.
Right.
And I think it's actually they need to do better. You need to sort of provide better user experiences, and you need to provide, you have elderly population. You need to help people to be able to remain in your house.
Yeah.
The assisted living, creating better ways for, for family around elderly to sort of have an idea what's going on. Is there something wrong? So you have sort of the whole digital, everything's becoming like so digitalized. And the
Yeah.
service providers, they really have to sort of be the main player here to make sure that we can all benefit from it.
Right. Right.
No, I think that's sort of it. It's, and again, I think we've been handicapped by, the bones of proprietary stuff, having to sort of siloed way of developing stuff, redoing the same cycle over and over and again,
Yep.
and just, fighting to sort of keep the triple play services alive. You know, okay, so what is my, so
If that term is even still a word.
yeah, crazy. And I'm not going to name any names here, but my well-known provider, who's provided with a fantastic fiber connection, and I have, all the speed in the world. They call me on a regular basis. So really wanting me to subscribe to the triple play service. They really
Mhm.
want to shove a set-top box down my throat. And I was like, I am completely uninterested.
Yeah.
Come to
I've been
me with something that's relevant for me. Come to me with some additional security offering. Come to me
right.
with this. this gaming low latency enhancement thing. Come
No,
to
it's
me with
absolutely true.
something that,
I've
give me
been I've
something that I can be enthusiastic about.
I've been unplugged from broadcast television, right? Cable or otherwise, for, oh my God, like 14 years, I think. And so it's like, to me, and, it's always, I understand that there is sort of, there's two issues, right? One is your installation base, and, you know, do the amount, your total cost of ownership of all of things that you've been doing for decades, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly shifting away from that. It's, you want to try and get as much out of it as possible before you don't do it anymore. But like, uh I I would easily buy those services, right? I would easily buy those services,
Yeah.
because it's not worth it for me anymore to think about TV. It's not. I
No.
feel like that's happening to a lot of people. You know,
Yeah.
I have kids that have never known commercials. You know,
Ooh. Wow. So are
outside
you
of
those?
outside of YouTube, and my 3-year-old, when she
Exactly.
sees them
That's
come up,
actually going to be
she's
my
like,
question. Are you paying for the premium YouTube?
No, well, other than YouTube, right? And she doesn't really
Yeah.
watch YouTube, because YouTube's is a little bit harder to control in terms of the direction that kids take when they're watching it. But like, when something does come up, so we were watching, what was it,
Yeah.
Peacock, I think, and Peacock still has ads, and and a commercial will come up, and she'll say, "What happened to the TV?"
That's actually
Anyway, my,
funny.
my point is, it's a very different experience now,
Yeah.
and it is in the operator's best interest to find those things that we are willing to pay for, because there are pain points, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to do my smart home by myself. I don't. I don't want to do that. I don't
No.
want to do my entire security setup by myself,
I mean, you're
especially,
back to the 1%, right? That
right.
happily sort of do it. That wouldn't want to have it any other way, but there is still some 99%
Hmm. Hmm.
who
Hmm.
would rather have it presented in a very usable, friendly way.
Right. And if you're an operator, you are literally in the best position to be the one to take
Yeah.
ownership of this.
Yeah. So I have an interesting personal experience with sort of with I think sort of where I identified like a lack in sort of the offerings from my service provider was
Yeah.
when our kids started, going to school on their own and coming home on their own, sort of
Hmm.
unsupervised by me and my wife. We wanted to have a way of sort of tracking sort of, is the door locked? When did somebody open and lock the
Yeah.
door? To keep track of them coming and going. So we ended up going for a really expensive digital, security system. So we ended up paying more for this connected alarm service than we were for sort of the broadband subscription. And
Hmm.
the only thing why we choose it, because they had a smart user-friendly app where you could easily sort of track. You could give your kids different identities. You could see uh, kid one, lock the door at this time, unlocked at that time. So you had a very easy way of following sort of the comings and goings. So we were for years spending, I think, $35 per month. And we would basically, that was the main thing for us, just to have that app to see sort of where doors
Right.
open,
Right.
doors locked. And
Yeah.
that would be such an easy service to
Hmm.
add.
And it is funny how it really is about tapping those unknown ease of use things. Like I have one Alexa device. The only thing we ever use it for is the shared grocery list, right? But because that is such a high, like that use case is so important,
Yeah.
right? And it's just anything that you could step in and make things that easier. I think people are willing to pay for, and to segue, are willing to, um, you know, having a place where you can, where you have the computing power and um, and the ownership to be able to place these applications, where you belong, and you have the most control over them. And the best place to do it right now, ironically, when we thought we were all going towards dumb gateways, it's totally taken it the other way. You know?
Yeah. But so some things, of course, change. Technology moves quite rapidly, but it this specific sort of use case, or unlocking the full potential of the residential gateway,
Mhm.
that has been such a slow process.
Do
If
you
you would
find
have
it?
asked me 10 years ago where we would be 2023, I would never have guessed that we would not have gotten further than we have as a
Do you
collective.
think that is just kind of a lack of understanding of the opportunities? Is it just because there's so much legacy out there? Or is it also sort of, the entire business ecosystem sort of fighting the change, right? Because it's not just operators, it's also the people who have spent a lot of time being the best firmware people,
Yeah.
right? Like.
So, so that's of course an interesting, pretty tough question, right? And I
Without
was,
let me catch that by saying we don't want to insult any of our customers. What
no,
we're gonna say.
uh, being mindful of that. I guess we're still recording to be a bit careful of how I word this. I have been known to be somewhat not very politically correct in some things.
That's this is the place for it. So there.
Yeah, but I mean, there of course there are multiple reasons for this, right? Of course, we have so for one, so I'm holding expensive mobile phone here or smartphone here. So with iPhone and Android, we got very used to things being really efficient, powerful, and the whole app revolution.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then you look at sort of your residential gateway, which can do all kinds of cool things, and you sort of expect something similar from that.
Right.
But then you have to sort of remember that we talk about something that is so much cheaper. Residential gateways, what are they, 40, 50, 60, $70, depending on sort of where you are and quantities, etc. So it has been always, you've always had to do so much like trickery, all kinds
Hmm.
of trickery to get this very, highly integrated, cost efficient device to handle all of this sort of, the traffic, the float applications,
Right.
and so it's
Right.
right,
And
right,
right, because
right.
not
We
in a bad way, right?
have
Because they are meant to be optimized to manage network traffic, not to
exact
be an
super
application platform.
optimized to handle sort of, again, those typical pay services, and that has to run, without rebooting for weeks. And
Mhm.
you of course know all this.
Mhm.
And then to shove, like an app store concept on top of that has, of course, clearly proven to be quite difficult.
Mhm.
I think also, and they, you have all sort of the legacy stuff that, okay, you want to move forward, but you have to bring all of the legacy stuff. You have to bring sort of, fixed telephony. You have to bring all the stuff and old services, and and then pairing that with the new has, obviously proven very difficult.
Mhm.
Again, I think sort of going back to the proprietary nature, and you have a certain product has a certain firmware and software, and hard to sort of roll out commonalities across, your gateway part. So, but
Right.
it is slowly getting better. And there, I, I, I have hope actually. And I think we owe a great deal of a big thank you. And I think that, like, going back to sort of the OpenWT community, I think they have done, and then of course, you have sort of the whole Linux kernel thing, but you have specifically for sort of Wi-Fi routers.
Mhm.
I think we owe a big thank you to the OpenWT crowd, the whole community for forcing, they force anybody that work and interact with them. They force us to be honest, because they only accept, the Linux standards way of configuring
Right.
and interacting with the
Right.
device.
Right.
They
Right.
don't. not accept any of the non-standardized proprietary stuff.
Right.
I mean, they're great gatekeepers of sort of getting these commonalities across, the standardized how to configure Wi-Fi and configure the Ethernet ports. So I think that baseline has been a great help, and that's a lot of big parts of my typical day go to sort of try to clarify what we do and why is OpenWT important. That's because we reuse whatever comes out of the community. And
Right. Right.
the
Right.
only thing we add to it are the things that are, that comes from sort of the enterprise and carrier side, the stuff that the community rightfully completely ignores. The TR69, the USB stuff, the easy mesh bits,
Mhm.
DSL, PON, the stuff that are not, that are not Linux standardized.
Right. Well,
So
it's really cool because that you see the fusion of the two worlds come together. Because at Broadband Forum, we always talk about how it's like when you have that meeting of standards and open source together, right? Then you start to see these really, 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 really powerful solutions, right?
yeah, so I think that there are of course things happening, right? And things have to change. When a company like IOPSYS, our whole sort of our business hinges on us being or not us not being forced to spend so much time on the plumbing layer.
Exactly.
So what is it that we do? So we develop a software product called IOWT. Okay, so OpenWT carrier grade enterprise software SDK product, right? It's the same product for all of our customers, and it's basically what do we do? We provide a clean, abstracted user space. So we integrate different chipsets and SoCs, and we abstract away all the sort of all the proprietary bits and pieces.
Right.
Everything that is underneath from a chipset BSP that supports the standards, host APD, CFG 802.11, switch DSA, all these things. There's no need to abstract that because the application understand them natively.
Right. Right. Right.
So what we do, unfortunately, still is that we spend most of our time ingesting, the new SDKs and BSP versions from the chipset companies and having to redo the same, hooking and
Yeah.
mapping, towards
Yeah.
our HAL layer. So we would so much rather work and focus, on the lifecycle management stuff, how to
Mm.
run, how to easily integrate applications, how to work in USP, develop that, high level API stuff, get the commonalities across. Because also most operators, they shouldn't have to care about, what software stack is my device is running. They
Right.
should only care
Right.
about what APIs are relevant for me, for my cloud
Right.
services.
Yeah. Right.
But,
Well, right. And then
sadly,
things are
yeah,
only as good as the bottleneck, right? And the bottleneck is always whatever interface is not the standardized one, right?
exactly. Yeah. So it is getting better, but it is still a fairly painful process. But it is getting better. I one thing that sort of that saddens me a bit is that I actually I wish that we could do more, uh, that we could contribute in a more active fashion back to the OpenWT community.
Hmm.
But it is quite difficult because the sort of the standard and then the level of code and the documentation that is needed sort of for it to be approved and be mainlined, it is still often too costly for us.
Right. Right.
We
Right.
can't really
Right.
we can't set aside. So I hope them can grow to to be a richer, more more resource heavy company that we can actually dedicate teams that work actively on that. to support sort of giving back to the community, because I think we owe them more than what we give them credit for.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. And it's tough because it's funny though, because I get the feeling that especially now, even the companies that seem like they have the resource to do such things under the surface don't have the resource to do these
No,
things. Everything's crunched, right?
yeah,
It's like every small unit of any company is basically their own lean startup
yeah,
at this
yeah. But
point.
that is the truth, right? Or the way it is.
So we talk about you talk about going all the way back to 1999. How is it that you even got interested in this kind of stuff?
I wasn't. Not not
I so you're gonna see a common theme, and it is none of us got here on purpose.
no, that seemed to be. I'm trying to remember if I've ever met anybody who purposely uh, landed him or her in this industry. Off the top of my mind, I can't really remember anyone. But for me,
Apparently,
personally, like,
I was talking to Paul Keeter in one of the previous episodes, and
yeah.
I started off with my "We all got here by accident." He's like, "Well, no, I was an EE major," and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, you're like the only person who didn't get here by accident."
Okay, there are always the exceptions to the rule, right? Yeah, absolutely. I certainly have no. Well, basically, I never had a plan. Uh, Much to the horror of my parents.
Hmm.
Sort of just, we just wanted to explore the world, meet nice people, experience stuff. Um, so I spent, let's say, the later part of the 90s with some friends of mine trying a few different, internet startup thingies,
Oh yeah,
looking to be really, looking to get rich
which at
quick,
the time,
and retire early. Uh, Ended up just losing more money than I gained.
Mhm.
So it was just kind of by accident that I stumbled across Conny Franzén, who hired me
Right.
to Inteno back in the day, and yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
it was one of these lucky accidents. And it is so much of life is just coincidence, right? You bump into the right person, It's not how at least for me, most of the things have happened sort of by chance or by accident, chance meetings. So I guess you have to you have to be open and embrace opportunity and possibility, right?
It's very much like the structure of the internet itself.
Very much so. But if there is something to be said, I think that there is. Uh, I may not for sure be the best or brightest, but there's at least I can give myself credit for some staying power.
Right. Right.
So some remaining committed. Um, and I tend to, of course, I'm biased because I have myself been so long in the industry. But when I meet people and talk about recruitment situations and like look at CVs, you see persons who've been jumping a lot between different companies and changing every couple of years. That I have sort of like an embedded skepticism about that,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
there's
Yeah.
like no accountability.
Right. It's like, what
If you
are you actually looking for? Right.
Yeah.
If you're just
And what have you ever been forced to clean up a mess of your own creation?
right. 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 And have the wherewithal to stick with it through the end. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's at least that's something.
No. Right. And I always try to find like at least some advice that I would give to people because we need people. We need them. And
Yeah.
uh, that is one of the things, it's like it's if you are bitten by the networking bug, especially the broadband networking bug, then you will know if you want to stay in it or not. And you'll know when you don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
but but try to see it for what it is, and that we are sort of a very dynamic and, you know, community of cowboys. And you know,
Yeah, I could wish for some more, cowboy mentality. I think it's also, I think, a, a problem, and also probably like a reason why things haven't really evolved as quickly as we would perhaps hope. So I guess, the big, tier ones, the big incumbent service providers have gone through
hmm hmm
most of them such massive outsourcing. They restructure and they downsize, um, and have gotten rid of
right,
so much of sort of the in-house, engineering skill. Going back to sort of, the incumbents of the world
right,
were the companies who worked closer with suppliers to develop all of the infrastructure that they were now benefiting from. And I think over time, most of these large service provider
right,
organizations,
right.
they are sort of they are
hmm
solving problems through their purchasing department. So they outsource problem solving, which I think is very difficult. So how do you drive a difficult multi-year strategy?
Right. When you have all these disparate parts,
You
right?
can't really
Yeah.
give your strategy to procurement. Go out and procure the best
Right.
partners to drive our 5-year strategy that will provide us magically with great user experience for our broadband customers.
Yeah. So let's talk about that though, because do you find that it is me turning around? Because one of the things that I've noticed is that, and especially from the perspective of baking CPE, right? It's now the operator, a lot of a great number of our customers, right? And a great number of the people we interact with through standards organizations are now going in the other direction, where it's like they'll come to somebody like IOPSYS and you're working very closely with them to integrate into the CPE that they want to use, right? And so there are teams of people who, or in other places, I'll run across, operators who are literally making their own CPE and they're doing it by interacting with a bunch of different vendors. But at the end of the day, they have a team of people who are putting it together. Is that is that abnormal? Do you feel like that's going more in that direction or less in that direction?
So I think that is crucial that there are pioneering service providers that do exactly that.
You're right. You're right. And I do get the impression that they are pioneering
Yeah.
that direction.
So you
Yeah.
have the Comcasts, and you have the Deutsche Telecoms, the BTs, Orange, of course. So that's sort of, all like the trailblazers, because they they provide funding for companies like ourselves to actually sort of bring about. So I often talk about like this sort of the Android model, right? To bringing sort of the software foundation
Right. Right.
upon
Exactly.
which these
Exactly.
big operators can, with their own in-house resources, they effectively take over the role of the OEM, of an OEM. So that they insource everything. So they basically just they go
hmm
to
hmm
ODMs just to sort of for, to contract manufacturing of of the devices, but they do everything else themselves. And and that
hmm
work is absolutely crucial for, because that will, I think it will only be a minority of service providers who have sort of
Right.
the uh, the financial resources, and sort of the willingness to do this kind
hmm
of transformation, because it is not a small thing. It is a big undertaking to
Right. Right.
effectively
Right. Right.
take on hardware and software development and maintain it across the entire product portfolio and over multi-year horizon. But all the other, all the other tier twos, tier threes, and everybody else that also wanna, in some way
Right.
provide great user experience. They, again, coming back to like the majority shouldn't have to worry about
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
software stack. They should only have sort of these well-supported, well-defined APIs
Right. Right.
to work,
Right.
to work towards. So I have these applications, I have
Right.
my cloud service, I have my ACS, I have my support. And that should
I've
all
actually
interact
seen sort
in
of
a very
some
standardized and structured way.
some
And it
companies.
could be underneath OpenWT, RDK, or Purple, whatever. They shouldn't have to care about that. So these commonalities will not
Right.
happen unless there are trailblazing companies that invest and make sure that we have sort of the whole standardization machinery. Because these companies
Hmm.
who have real power in this industry, it's the big service providers who control hardware design. So they control
Right.
effectively through purchasing. They can affect and influence chipset companies and everybody in between to make sure that
Right.
they drive, follow standards, work and, support standards that under, the evolution of new standards. And that, of course,
Right.
benefits
And then
everybody eventually.
right, it creates an ecosystem for all of the smaller service providers to sort of
Exactly.
almost literally copy, right? Because what I was going to say is we've seen sort of an uptick in companies who are almost provide an entire service to an operator where it's like not only are they giving you the components to do a managed install base of customer premises equipment with all of the bells and whistles that comes with and rebranding it as their own, but they also have marketing departments that help you deploy, you know, like you're a tier three operator, you just sort of go to this one company and you're like, I can I just be a better operator right now? And they're like, sure, here you
Yeah.
go.
I say it really is, and it has to be it has to be this ecosystem where the big players and the small players can interact and sort of where everybody benefits, right? And it only works if you have effective standardization bodies
Right.
to drive and make sure that keep us the players honest,
Right.
keep us from cutting corners.
Yeah, exactly. And on the open, so talk about on the open source side too, because you're saying how the Open WT guys, they've stuck with this for so long, or they have very, very stringent requirements on what they put back into the code. That has to be,
Yeah,
other than thank yous from people like yourself, like it has to be kind of a thankless job for them to have kept up with it for so long. But that's part of the responsibility for
yeah,
why we're able to do this in the first place, right?
yeah. I mean, so I think we are trying to do so we have tried to like abide and work and follow sort of the open source principles.
Hmm.
And so one sort of practical thing that we do is try to look at sort of standardized hardware.
Hmm.
You can, you're of course familiar with Raspberry Pi. Not sure if you're familiar with something called Banana Pi, MediaTek based device. So basically, there's something called Banana Pi 4 now, I think. It's effectively like a MediaTek Wi-Fi 6
Right.
device. So you can buy it, or Amazon or number of places. And you can take an IOWT build. It's completely open source, including easy mesh, TR69, everything. You can drop that on a Banana Pi MediaTek device that you bought, over retail. And that sort of, I
Okay.
think
Yeah. Yeah. I
that's,
get you. I get you.
for me at least, is an important stepping stone to give something back. So it's not that I would love magically for most of our software modules, including sort of our easy mesh stack and others, to just
Right.
magically
Right.
mainline and sort of be supported and be partners of every OpenRT release going forward. But at least if there is a way for somebody who can be part of our industry, or just one of the 1% do-it-yourself
Hmm.
people who want to sort of tinker with like an enterprise grade gateway software. They can actually buy this device and sort of, go to the IOPSYS.eu and pick it up and build it, play with it.
Right. Right. I should tell some of the guys here. Let's try it right now.
And so those things are, I think those things are important, right? Like sort
Yeah.
of walk the walk and talk the talk, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I like to think that people pay attention to that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Otherwise, you have, some companies that have to pour an awful lot of money into marketing to overcome the fact that they might not be the ones who are doing that. Not that I'll name those people on the show, but
Yeah, but you have also sort of, you have the whole status quo, right? There are always
Mhm.
important incentives to keep things
Yeah,
same today as they were
no,
yesterday.
no, and they run deep. Those incentives
Yeah,
run
yeah,
very deep.
yeah, yeah. I'm torn. Uh, I'm oftentimes lazy by nature, but
That's why
but
we're here.
I
No.
yeah, but I also think like, damn, you know, go the extra mile now.
Hmm.
Try to do it a little bit better, and try to see it as something that is slightly bigger
Hmm.
than just you know, your own narrow focus.
Right, right, right.
So
Well, and to sort of to wrap up sort of the theme of what we're talking about here, I like to think that at least in the coming, especially this year, but in the next several years, people are going to see that initial investment is paying off when it comes to trying to do this. Because I really do believe that. Like you're already seeing evidence of it, right? You're seeing the first killer use cases that are cybersecurity and gaming, right? Like
yeah,
people are willing, like the statistics show that people are willing to pay extra money to have guaranteed latency for gaming. They
yeah,
are. They are, right?
yeah, for sure. But it also like it's also somebody or a number of companies will capture that market. So people, to me, it's just sort of a question: who will be the ones to
Right.
monetize this opportunity?
Hmm. Hmm.
So if if not the service providers, you know, work towards this really actively, somebody else just going to come in and eat their lunch.
Exactly,
It's just,
exactly, and those people
never,
are the usual boogeymen, right?
yeah,
It's the usual big name that you're gonna hear do that sort of thing.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, take Amazon with Prime, right? It's just a matter of time before they, yeah, I'm right. So you have these services, yeah. So you're Prime, what do you call it? Prime Video, Prime TV, wherever subscriber.
Yep.
Yeah, we just
Prime
throw in
VPN.
a broadband subscription for you. And yeah, you live in a house. Okay, so we can just, we'll put solar panels, for free, and we just want to capture a bit of your overcapacity and it, it, exactly. And this thing can go so quickly,
Mhm.
right? And then you're right. You're tier one uh, service provider who have been fantastically great and dominant for 120 years, and suddenly, bang! I'm reduced. Like I I'm reduced to this connection that I have. I have an infrastructure, but I no longer have any services that people pay for.
Right,
That would be
right.
sad. So let's
No, that's true.
let's
No.
yeah,
No, it will be sad. And I think that, but I really do believe that because we're having this conversation and because companies like IOPSYS even exist and the fact that you are doing what you are doing is evidence of the fact that people are recognizing that there is sort of another direction to go. Right. And people are actually willing to invest in doing it.
oh,
Otherwise we wouldn't be here. Right.
true, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other advice that you would give out there to people in that situation? Or the people that you would like to address directly?
Well, this is hard. Uh, I think one thing I see that I also think is a bit sad is that there are many companies and individuals who have tried and failed. There are so many failed examples of service providers trying to do, because they of course know this as well as we do. They know, they have all the data. They know
Mhm.
exactly what's happening. So I would just, hope that don't be burdened by, by past mistakes. Dust yourself off,
Right,
get up on
right,
the horse. Things are better. There is a much better. Yeah,
right. Things
you
are
have.
better because people have tried this in the past, and maybe it just wasn't the right time, and
Yeah.
now it very
So
much
it
is.
is. We have
You know,
we
yeah,
have technology now that actually supports. You can actually support an aggressive strategy now. You can roll out better user experiences. Don't give up. There is still
yeah.
hope.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Joakim. I really appreciate it. And anytime you want to be on the show again, you're perfectly
Thank you.
welcome. We can talk about this entire other topics that we
Yeah,
fill
this
another
hour
hour with. So.
really, yeah, well, passed really fast. It seems like
No,
we
it's
just
very hard to
started,
not make this a
started,
4 hour show.
finding our groove.
Now that we've laid the groundwork.
Yeah. Actually, the
Yep.
sun came out. It's right in my eyes. It probably is a good time to end this session.
You are watching us on YouTube, go hit that subscribe button and like this video so that the algorithms pick us all up. Feel free to comment on anything we're talking about. If you think that anything we've said is totally ridiculous, then that's the stuff that really gets the computers pumping. So feel free to scream at us below. And if you are listening to this, feel free to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast and give us a good review. And we will it'll be soon. Um, and by all means, uh, own the nerdy things you love and have fun doing them. Thanks, Joaquin.